I work with people with insomnia, or I don't really like to use the word insomnia because most people don't have insomnia, and it makes people feel worse when they get branded with insomnia because it feels like a really bad thing, and actually to get a diagnosis of insomnia is quite difficult. You have to have really bad sleep for more than 3 months, and so I don't like the word insomnia. I'm a sleep coach, and I work with a theory called cognitive behavioural therapy, which just means that I'm not only trying to change people's behaviours, but also their thoughts about their sleep. So this whole workshop today is really about optimising your sleep health by improving your sleep, but most importantly, improving how you feel about your sleep. So it is there is not much difference between people who enjoy their sleep and people who don't enjoy their sleep. It's mostly mindset. So what we're going to do today, I am going to talk a little bit about trying to get more sleep and a little bit about the sleep hygiene techniques. For example, not having a foam bedroom. But most of it is not about that. Most of it, I'm sure you've tried all the sleep hygiene things and it's not worked. This is really about improving your relationship with your sleep, because that's where the magic happens. So, there are 3 things that really influence our sleep, how we sleep. The first one is circadian rhythm. Does everybody have a general idea of what circadian rhythm means? No. Okay, so circa just means about or around, approximately. And DN means day, so it is the rhythm of everything that we do in our body and our brain throughout a day, a 24-hour period. So it's more to do with the wake-sleep cycle, the fact that we release certain hormones at certain times of the day, it's when we exercise, it's when we eat, it's when we poop, it's the whole thing. We work in a rhythm. Our body likes to work in a rhythm. All animals do. We're no different from any other animal. So we have a sleep-wake cycle. Usually, for us, back in the old days, we would go to bed when the sun went down. That would be our cue for now it's time to sleep. And we would wake up when the sun comes up in the morning. So at this time of year, we wouldn't be getting much sleep. In the winter, we would be sleeping a heck of a lot. These days, because we have electric lights and we have busy social lives, we don't tend to work like that. We tend to try and fool our circadian rhythm slightly, so that we sleep usually for about 8 hours and we're awake for about 16 hours. But the other things we do are still in a rhythm. So usually we eat at around about the same time. We poop at around about the same time. We exercise usually at the same time of day. We're social beings at certain times of day and not others. So we get ourselves in a rhythm and our body starts to use clues and cues of what we do during the day to know when to release those hormones, when to shut systems down, when to make sure systems are working optimally. So it knows if we do the same thing at the same time every day, it knows pretty much what time it is. The time is a human concept. Our bodies don't actually know like a clock time, but they know that if you wake up at this time, and we know we're awake because we've got light in our eyes at this time, then in approximately 16 hours time, you're going to get back into bed and go to sleep. If you eat at this time, I know, or the body knows, that in approximately 2, 3, maybe 4 hours time, you're going to get into bed and go to sleep. So it knows when to start producing different hormones that keep you awake and make you fall asleep. So really I'm talking about cortisol, adrenaline and melatonin. So melatonin is the hormone that kickstarts you falling asleep. Cortisol and adrenaline help you wake up in the morning. And the body, if we do things at the same time every day, knows when that is, and we get ourselves into a really good rhythm. That's why they use the word rhythm, because it is every day same thing every day. Yeah? That's why when we do things outside of that rhythm, we get a bit like strange. Hi, come in. I think that's all right. I've only really started. We're just talking about circadian rhythm. The second thing that influences our sleep is something called sleep pressure. We also sometimes call sleep pressure sleep drive. So sometimes you'll hear it's called sleep drive, sleep pressure. You can also equate it to hunger for sleep. So sleep hunger, if you like. The idea of sleep pressure is that it builds over time, continually. So if we've had a good night's sleep and we wake up in the morning and we're totally refreshed, then we start with a sleep pressure of 0. We've released all our sleep pressure. We then start to build it up during the day. And we build it up over time, but we also build it up with the amount of physical and mental exercise that we do. So the more active you are, whether that be up here or in your body, the greater your sleep pressure rises. And it gets to a point at which your sleep pressure is so high that you can't keep your eyes open anymore and you need to fall asleep. It needs to be released. It's like it builds up like in a pressure cooker, and then at some point we need to release it and we fall back asleep again. Have a good night's sleep, wake up in the morning, our sleep pressure is back at 0. That's the idea. It doesn't always work like that. There are some things that we do that mean that it doesn't work like that, but the idea is that we build up through the 16 hours that we're awake enough sleep pressure that we then can fall asleep. Good night's sleep, no sleep pressure in the morning. The third sleep influencing factor is what I like to call safety and how safe we feel. Now, when we fall asleep, and we sleep, as humans, as all animals, we are at our most vulnerable. So we shut off systems, we shut off the ability to interact with the world, and because of that, we need to make sure that we are safe. So when we're talking about safety, there are different versions of that safety. So, external safety is really important. If we're going to get attacked during the night, or we feel as though there is a threat to our safety, our physical safety, we're not going to fall asleep. Or if we do fall asleep, we're only going to get into a really light level of sleep, what people call, I just slept with one eye open. So if you've ever been in an unfamiliar place and you don't really know what's going on,
sorry,
hi there, no worries, come in. You can sometimes feel that you've not slept very well because you're just keeping yourself awake in order that you are not going to be threatened by something. There are other threats to our safety as well. So hopefully most of us in the modern world, we sleep in a bedroom with a lock on our front door and we're safe from external fears. Unfortunately, that's not the case for everybody. There are some people who find sleep is disturbed because they're not safe, physically they're not safe. Thinking about people who are homeless, people who are abused, that kind of thing. Their sleep is never going to be great simply because they don't feel physically safe. Most of us, thankfully, feel physically safe when we sleep. But then there is also the threat of we need to be safe with what's going on internally. So physically, to start with, because when we go to sleep, we shut down our systems, we do different things. So we either divert attention from some systems and we put it onto others when we sleep, or we rest, we digest more, we slow our heart rate down, our blood pressure, our breathing slows down. Because we're doing that, we need to make sure that physically we are safe within ourselves to do so. So before you fall asleep, your brain will go through all of the systems in your body and make sure that each of them is at a physical point where it's okay to shut them down or to take them down to a lower level. I'm thinking about breathing rates. So if your body looks at your oxygen intake and it sees that you're not taking in enough oxygen, it's going to wake you up to get more oxygen. Otherwise, you're going to be hypoxic. I think that's the word. If you haven't taken on enough calories during the day, and your blood sugar level, for example, is low, then your body's not going to allow you to go to sleep. It's going to keep you awake to take more calories on board in order that you're not going to go into hypoglycemia overnight. If you've not taken on enough water and you're dehydrated, your body's going to keep you awake so that you drink more water. It goes through each and every system in your body, make sure that we're all right to shut this one down, give it a bit of a break. Otherwise, I'm going to keep you awake until you're optimal. So there is that whole thing of internal physical safety that we need to make sure is in place. And then we have safety in terms of our emotional state. And I should think a lot of us women, this is where we fall down quite a lot. So when we talk about stress influencing sleep, this is really what I mean. So if your brain checks in with itself and says, at the moment, I don't feel safe enough for you to stop problem solving or worrying about this issue, I can't do that right now. I need you to resolve this issue and then I'm going to let you sleep. So it's probably one of the only times when the brain does the wrong thing, because most of the time we function much better and we problem solve overnight, and we therefore have a much better reaction to that stress if we have a good night's sleep. But the brain doesn't want you to do that. It wants you to problem solve first, resolve this issue, and then I'm going to let you rest. So if there's any emotional stress, any threats emotionally to how we feel, the brain won't shut down. It will let you go into a light level state, or it will take you into REM sleep, where it does a lot of its processing, but it won't let you go into deep sleep, and you won't feel 100% refreshed in the morning, and your sleep pressure won't be back at zero. So those three things are the biggest things that influence our sleep and whether we sleep or we don't sleep, and how well we sleep. At any point in time, any one of these can trump the others. So they're like three generals in the army, and they're all battling for supremacy, and at some points, some of them beat the others completely. So let's, for example, say that our circadian rhythm is tip-top. We've done everything today in the right order at the right time, and our body knows this is the time for sleep. It's 10 o'clock at night, we're going to release melatonin and help you start to feel drowsy and fall asleep. But today, we didn't do enough physical activity. We had a duvet day. We watched Netflix all day. Just lay on the sofa and watch Netflix all day. We haven't built up enough sleep pressure. So although we've released our melatonin because it's the right time of day to do so, we don't feel tired enough for sleep. We've got, sleep pressure's just not enough. Keeps us awake. No matter how safe we feel with where we are and what's going on in our body, our circadian rhythm says it's the right time, sleep pressure says not yet. Let's look at this another way. So circadian rhythm is really good. It's the right time for sleep. We've got enough sleep pressure because we've done loads of activity today. We've really worn ourselves out. But we've gone on holiday and we are staying in a bedroom that's not got a lock on the door, and we don't know who else is staying in the hotel. We don't feel safe. So we might be able to sleep a little bit, but we're not going to get a really good night's sleep because we just don't feel safe enough. Let's say we went on holiday and we went to somewhere quite a long way away and we had a long flight and we are no longer on UK summertime. We are somewhere else and our circadian rhythm is totally thrown out. We've been up for 24 hours pretty much. We've got loads of sleep pressure, but it's the middle of the day, it's bright sunshine, it's not, our bodies are telling us it's not the time to sleep because our circadian rhythm isn't right. We might feel safe, we might be in a hotel room with a lock on the door, but we just can't sleep. Or conversely, we've gone on holiday and it's the middle of the day, but we can't stay awake because our circadian rhythm is telling us we will not sleep. So we can be perfect on two, the other one knocks us out, or they tussle with each other. Really, all three of these ideally want to be in a good place, and then we get a really nice deep sleep, refreshing sleep. So those are the three main influences on sleep and how sleep works. Next, I wanted to give you some information on how sleep works in terms of the structure of sleep, because we don't sleep in one big block. It would be lovely if we would fall asleep at 10:30, wake up at 7, not know anything about what else is going on in between, and feel brilliant. You know, it would be very Disney. It doesn't work like that. You know it doesn't work like that, that's why you're here. Sleep works we sleep as humans in a series of cycles. So we go through approximately 5 or 6 sleep cycles in a night, if we're lucky. And each of those sleep cycles lasts approximately an hour and a half. At the start of the night, they become shorter in the early hours of the morning, probably down to about 50 minutes, early hours of the morning. And our sleep cycles are split into different stages of sleep. So we have the start of sleep, which is up here. This is sleep stage 1. Sleep stage 1, most people wouldn't equate with being asleep. It's kind of daydreaming sleep. So a lot of people go into sleep stage 1 when they're driving a car. That's when you get to your destination, you can't remember how you got there. That's sleep stage 1, frightening, but that is you part of being asleep. It's when you are having a facial and you know you're in the room, you can feel somebody doing something, but you've gone, you're off for somewhere else. It's when you are sitting in a room and somebody's talking to you about sleep and you're not doing sleep. Half asleep, yeah. That's sleep stage 1. It's usually about 10-15 minutes, not very long. People don't normally equate it with being asleep. Then, hopefully, you move into the lighter levels of sleep. Now, in sleep stage 2, we start to shut down some of our body processing. So the brain is really recognising that we're starting to fall asleep. Usually, the first thing we do is we close our eyes and we've lost kind of our visual sense. But we can also start to lose our sense of touch. We start to lose our tone in our muscles, and our muscles start to relax, and our breathing relaxes, our heart rate goes down, and we are in that first stage of sleep where people start to snore. And they start to snore, or the breathing changes, because when you don't have as much muscle tone in your throat then gets a little bit wobbly. When you're taking the breath in, it moves your vocal cords, and we get that sound coming through. That's essentially what snoring is. So people generally snore when they go into light sleep, stage 2 sleep. For us as women, I don't know if you know this, but when we go through the menopause and we lose our progesterone levels, our muscle tone in our throat gets even less. So unfortunately, we start to snore more. It's very unladylike, sorry. But women, postmenopausal women and perimenopausal women are at a greater risk of developing not only snoring but sleep apnea as well. Quite a dangerous thing. I might You're looking confused.
No, it was just as though, yeah, another thing.
I know, isn't it? Perimenopause really is the gift that keeps on giving. Yes, absolutely true. So yes, that's when people start to snore. Some people do that twitchy thing, they start getting hypnic jerks. Some people vocalise slightly. That's when you're falling into sleep, but you're not quite in deep sleep yet. At this point, if somebody said your name or shook you, or somebody changed the channel on the TV, you would wake up. Then after that, about 20 minutes, we'll fall into deep sleep. Deep sleep is the only level of sleep where we switch off our sense of hearing. It's the only level of sleep where we become really vulnerable. That's when we are really unresponsive. It takes a lot for somebody to be woken out of deep sleep, and if you're woken out of deep sleep, you feel really groggy because you have a lot more something called sleep inertia. You know when you've been woken out of deep sleep because you feel terrible. It's a horrible feeling. Deep sleep is really important. When we're in deep sleep, we do a lot of growth, a lot of repair, physical repair and growth. We're building new neural connections. There's a lot going on in deep sleep. A lot of people these days, I feel as though the internet has kind of told everybody that you must have loads of deep sleep, and there's all these things about how can I get more deep sleep. Yes, it's important, but so is every single other aspect of the sleep cycle. If you only did deep sleep and you didn't do the others, you would still feel pretty rubbish. It is not that. It's no good just having deep sleep and not the rest. So don't listen to the nonsense about deep sleep. Yes, it's important, but it's no more important than any of the others. What is different about deep sleep is that our ability to get into it reduces as we get older. So an older person's sleep cycle will have more sleep stage 2, less deep sleep, more REM. And that's simply because, as an older person, I know this is horrible, but we don't need to do growth and development and building new neural networks because we're kind of done with that. So the body doesn't feel like it needs to do it. It doesn't mean that we don't feel less refreshed in the morning. We do, unfortunately, because we've not had that deep sleep. It's more difficult for us to get into deep sleep. It's more difficult for us to stay in deep sleep. Unfortunately, that also means that we spend less of our time in that period of sleep where we're not listening out for anything and we're totally unconscious. And that means that our sleep becomes more disturbed as we get older. It's easier for us to be disturbed because we are in lighter levels of sleep for most of our sleep cycle. So that's why as we get older, people tend to have more broken sleep, also because of other comorbidities and medication that we're taking and things like that. But usually it's simply because we find it more difficult to get into deep sleep and stay in deep sleep. So we do a period of deep sleep, and then we come out of that level. We probably do a little bit of light sleep over here as well, but we do something called REM there. Not a pop band, very good pop band, I like REM. But REM stands for rapid eye movement, and it just means that this is a period of your sleep where your eyes start moving around and they can track that. So they call everything else in the sleep cycle non-REM, and then this bit's called REM because that's, it weren't very imaginative. In REM, we do the majority of our dream sleep. Not all of it. We actually dream through this whole section here, probably not in deep sleep, but this is when we do the kind of psychedelic, trippy, often an adventure dream, or the really kind of emotional laden important dreaming. REM is when we give ourselves a bit of therapy. We are processing things that have happened during the day. We're preparing ourselves for things that we're going to do today. For example, I had a dream last night that I wasn't prepared to do this talk, that everything had gone wrong, that I couldn't find where I was going. And it's basically, it's your brain saying, this is what you need to do before you leave the house in the morning. Or it's going through conversation that you had yesterday and kind of testing out whether that was the right response. Should I give them a different response? It will take you through scenarios in a kind of a role-playing situation. That's dreaming. Dreams in themselves are absolutely fascinating. Don't get me started on dreaming because I'll just go off on a tangent. But they generally, they have like a meaning and a significance that is for you and for you alone. Don't read a dream diary for like explanation things, nonsense. Yeah, they're fantastic opportunities for you to sort things out in your head. So REM is a really, really important part of your sleep cycle. If we didn't do REM, we would lose our mental health pretty rapidly. And it's REM sleep that is disturbed with people who've got PTSD. So if you've had a traumatic event, then your brain has a tendency to go through light sleeps, skip deep sleep, and try and take you straight to REM because it wants you to keep replaying the trauma until you resolve it. Unfortunately, it means that people with PTSD have recurring dreams about the trauma, nightmares about the trauma. So it's a difficult thing, but without REM, we would not be very happy. We would not be very well adjusted.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
So if you never remember any dreams, presumably that doesn't mean to say you're not dreaming it.
No, absolutely not. If we didn't dream, we would go mad. Yeah. So you are dreaming, but people who don't remember it. So that's an interesting thing. I will probably
Come back to it.
Yes. So we go through these sleep cycles every night about 5 or 6 times. In the first 2 sleep cycles, we do less REM and more deep sleep. So we sleep our deepest in our first 2 sleep cycles. And we don't do a huge amount of this in between the end of the first sleep cycle and the start of the next sleep cycle. So we tend, let me explain this first. So after we've gone through REM, we then come back to consciousness. So at the end of each sleep cycle, there is a gap here where we are awake. And this is everybody.
So this is where you feel like you've never been asleep because you're coming around to that point, possibly. It can be.
So it depends on how you sleep and how you feel about your sleep as to how conscious you are that there is a gap in between the end of one and the start of the next. For a lot of people, and for people who say that they don't remember their dreams, this is generally the case for them. They don't recognise that they've been awake at all. Now they do sometimes do the Disney sleep. They do get into bed, pass out, wake up at 7. I didn't dream at all, didn't wake up at all, I just slept. And hallelujah to him. Like, I would be a bit gutted that I didn't remember my dreams, but amazing. That's great. That's not how it works for most people. Most people are aware that there is a gap and they know that they're awake. Now how you deal with that is what makes the difference between somebody who is happy with their sleep and is alright with their sleep and somebody who is struggling and says, I'm a bad sleeper. So the people who say that they're a bad sleeper, what they do and this was me. They get to the end of a dream, or they're starting to come out of a dream, and they're already, I would start to try and analyse that dream while I've got my eyes closed on the bed. And then I think, oh, look at me, look, I'm thinking about that dream. That must mean I'm awake. Oh God, I'm awake. Again, this is terrible. I wake up every night. Why can't I do this properly? Why am I such a bad sleeper? I'm going to roll over, I'm going to look at the time, because for two reasons. The first reason is that I want to know that it's exactly the same time that I wake up every night. And of course it is within about 10 minutes. Because I'm quite good at having a good circadian rhythm, so I tend to get into bed at about the same time, so I tend to fall asleep at about the same time. So it figures if I'm going through my sleep cycles, I'm going to wake up at about the same time. That's no biggie, is it?
The screen's
So that kind of works. We understand why that works. So I look at the time and I think, oh God, it's the same time that I wake up every day. And then I want to do that thing which is all about mental arithmetic. Now I don't know about you, but this mental arithmetic is not my strongest point. But what I'm trying to do is work out what time did I fall asleep. Therefore, how much sleep have I had between now, then? How much sleep have I had already? What time is my alarm going to go off tomorrow morning? How much longer have I got in bed before my alarm goes off? If I add those together, how much is that in total? Is that enough? What am I doing tomorrow? Should I start panicking now about the fact that I've not had a good night's sleep, and therefore I'm going to feel rubbish tomorrow? I'm not going to be able to perform very well. This is a disaster. Oh my God, I'm winding myself up. I need the toilet. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
So that against somebody who goes, oh look, I'm at the end of one sleep cycle, if I just roll over, keep myself nice and relaxed, next sleep cycle. It honestly, that is the biggest difference between people who say that they sleep well and people who say that they don't. Particularly for us as women, because I think we get to a point where we just start blaming ourselves or our hormones or anything on the fact that we woke up again at the same time. It's just part of natural sleep. It's just the way it is. If you need to go to the toilet, get up, don't turn the lights on, wander into the bathroom, pee in the dark, don't wash your hands, don't flush the toilet, get back into bed, relax, you will be back asleep, and I swear to God in the morning you won't even remember that you've got up. Dream week. We used to do it with toddlers, remember? Take them for a dream week, do it to yourself. And by the way, it's not your bladder that wakes you up. I know that there is a certain amount of muscle loss that we have with our bladder as we lose our collagen production, but it's not that wakes you up. Because how many times have you wet the bed as an adult? It never happens. And we do sleep sometimes for 4 hours with a full bladder. It's not your bladder that wakes you up. It's this. And then the first thing you do when you wake up is check in with your bladder. And your bladder says, yeah, all right, feel awake, I'll go. It's not your bladder. Stop not drinking from 6 o'clock in the evening. But dehydration will wake you up a lot quicker than a full bladder.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Are you saying your sleep pattern goes like that all the time? So it always goes to sleep, to deep sleep, to vivid sleep? Or, because I have a smartwatch, so of course I'm obsessed with it, and sometimes I go into REM, but I go into deep sleep after REM, which is a big one. It's not like your crack at all.
Can I let you into a secret?
No.
Your smartwatch has got no idea what's absolute nonsense. Stop watching it. Take it off. And don't. Tracking your sleep is one of the worst things that you can do for your sleep. When sleep becomes a performance and we want to increase it, we want it to be better, we start to get performance anxiety. And the one thing that sleep doesn't like is being told what to do. It doesn't want to be controlled. It wants to do what it wants to do. And it's not a bad question actually, because there are times when our brains and our bodies will alter slightly our sleep cycle just based on how we slept the night before or the night before. So if you got up and watched the football, you stayed up and watched football, I don't even know what time it was on, I don't care. If your sleep was disrupted because you didn't get enough of it last night, you just had a really late night and an early morning, you didn't get enough sleep, your body will say, what now I'm really craving right now is deep sleep. I've not had enough deep sleep, I really need some deep sleep. So what it will do is it will let you go through this bit and it will condense the light sleep and take you straight into deep sleep. Like, it wants to get there and it will keep you there longer. So if you've done a lot of physical activity or you've not slept very well the night before, the chances are that you will go into deep sleep and stay in deep sleep a bit longer to catch up on deep sleep. If, however, you've had like something really, like a difficult conversation, or there's been something in your life that your brain has felt was a little bit tested, it didn't like it wants to work out what happened, it may well cut out a little bit of deep sleep and take you into REM a bit quicker to try and sort that out. So it can vary based on what you've been doing during the night, or how you slept the night before, or if you've got PTSD, you know, it can vary slightly. Babies, for example, and young children, they don't spend much time in light sleep at all. They go straight into deep sleep, and they spend a lot longer in deep sleep. And that is why babies and young children can fall asleep like that, and they're asleep. You know, they're not doing like a little gentle snoring session. They just go from awake eating dinner to face planting on food, right? And it also means that once a child is asleep and they're in deep sleep pretty straight away, they turn off their hearing, you can put them in front of like a speaker at a festival and they'll sleep. Because that's what they need, that's what their body's craving, that's where they need to be.
Is that why they've had temper when they wake up, because they're coming straight out of deep, some babies are coming out straight out of deep sleep?
Yes, yeah, and because we wake them up, they're not
It's not
sort
natural.
of letting themselves wake up, we wake them up when we think it's right for them to be awake. So yeah, they can be a bit grumpy. Or they go, like, we wake them up and they're full. Like there's no, you know, they're just off. It's almost like they have an on switch and off switch. As adults, we don't do that. We need like a standby switch in between. But yeah, babies do, and young children do that.
Is it right to ask a
Yeah,
question,
yeah.
Jordan, Morphy? I just wondered about, like, sometimes when I don't sleep very well and feel as though it's maybe just light sleep, I try and console myself and go, maybe it's my body saying, I don't need so much deep sleep tonight.
I love that.
So I try and overcome the anxiety bit of it with that.
I love that.
But I didn't know if that's based on what you just said, or is it's not actually that, but it's just those three factors, like the safety and the circadian and the
So I
pressure.
think that the trouble with people who feel that their sleep isn't great, you can start off with one of those reasons for sleep not being great, is circadian rhythms often not enough sleep pressure, we don't feel safe. And then you have one bad night, and then all of a sudden, your anxiety, the stress, the reason that you don't feel safe is because of your sleep. I'm a bad sleeper. You get into bed and you give yourself sleep anxiety because you feel like I had a bad night last night, I'm going to have a bad night again tonight. So to accept it and just allow it to be means that what you're doing is you're telling your brain that you're safe. It's okay that I'm not sleeping deeply. It's okay, I'm safe with that. The brain says, okay, you can now you can sleep. So I love that. Part of my training is not only in CBTI but also in something called acceptance therapy. And part of acceptance therapy is just accepting that tonight's a bad night. It's alright. Tomorrow might be better. It's okay. And we all need to accept more that if we have a bad night, work doesn't end. We get out the next day, we carry on. I know there's a huge amount of pressure put on us, particularly by social media, about the fact that if we don't sleep well, we're all going to end up with dementia and heart disease, and your life is going to be, shorten your life by 7 years. Yeah, but the thing that's going to make you sleep bad is you worrying about the fact that you're going to get like it's a catch-22. So for you to say it's okay, that's the best thing. And that really is what I said right at the start, that this workshop isn't necessarily about you sleeping better, it's about you feeling better about your sleep. We don't all sleep perfectly, nobody sleeps perfectly, particularly women, because we have cycles and because I think we do a lot more up here. There are going to be nights when we don't sleep well, and that's okay. The point is not to worry about it, because then you're just turning something from a primary cause, you're just making it a secondary cause, and it's the worry that keeps you awake. So anybody remember where I was? We were talking about the different stages of sleep, babies being like in different, so this kind of breaks it down. So we've got sleep stage 1, you're a bit drowsy, you can easily be woken. This lady on the end here is definitely sleep stage 1, possibly sleep stage 2. Then we've got sleep stage 2, light sleep, and our body temperature decreases. This is really important. So as we go from sleep stage 2, that light level of sleep, and we go into deep sleep, our body temperature decreases. Our core body temperature, the one that surrounds our organs in here. If we can't do that, we can't drop our core body temperature, we can't go into deep sleep, and we will stay in light levels of sleep. Anybody notice how they don't sleep very well when it's hot?
And how does that work with the hot flashes as well?
Exactly. So this is where women with, because we don't control our body temperature in the same way that we used to, that's why hot flashes keep you awake. That's why people sleep with a fan, and that's why people don't sleep very well when it's really hot. If we can mimic if we can kind of make it decrease without it doing it naturally, we can actually help ourselves fall into a deep sleep. So we can feel a bit more drowsy even if we can do this externally. So that's why people suggest that you have like a slightly warmer bath or a shower before bed, because you heat the body up, you then get out of the hot, feel a bit cooler, core body temperature decreases, you fall asleep into deep sleep easier. Also, why you can't fall asleep if you've got cold feet. So the way that our body controls the way that we get rid of excessive heat, if we're too hot, we need to decrease our core body temperature, so our hands, our feet, our face. So if you've ever stuck your foot outside of the duvet, you've tucked your arm outside of the duvet, or you've turned your pillow over to find that nice cool bit on the pillow, that is what you're doing without knowing that that's what you're doing. You're helping your core body temperature decrease, helps you fall back asleep again, and you get into nice sleep. So if you can't do that, we stay in sleep stage 2. And again, that's what happens with a lot of different things, but mostly in the heat. And heart rate slows down, we're not waking so easily, and then hopefully we fall into stage 3 sleep. This bit here should be up there. I just noticed that it's too late. So when we're in deep sleep, we don't have any eye movement, we don't have any muscle activity, there is not a lot going on externally. People, you know, it's quite difficult to determine whether they're still alive or whether they're actually they're dead. But that's what deep sleep looks like. Difficult to wake from, lots of physical growth and repair. And then we go into rapid eye movement. So rapid eye movement is like a light stage of sleep. There's a lot going on in the brain. So if you scan somebody's brain in REM, it's very similar to what your brain is doing right now. So when you're awake, when you're in REM, really similar. Heart rate and blood pressure increase again, your breathing changes, you're learning. We paralyse the muscles at that point because we don't want to be acting out our dreams. People who have sleepwalk, sleep talk, things like that, that's where this goes slightly awry. So they're dreaming and they're acting out their dream, talking through their dream, things like that. If you ever come into full consciousness in your brain, but you've not told your muscles to move again because they're slightly out of sync, that can happen sometimes. Then you get what's called sleep paralysis. Anybody have that when they're in bed and they're awake but they can't move their muscles? Some people find it quite frightening. That's why sleep paralysis happens. It's not that bad.
Sounds like
It's not that bad. So I was talking about how we move through those sleep cycles overnight, and this is kind of our level of consciousness. So if we see the orange bit is being awake, this is like really deep sleep. You've got REM next to wakefulness, and then stages 1 and 2 in the middle. So when we fall asleep, we go down into deep sleep quite quickly. There's more deep sleep in that first sleep cycle. We come up to REM, but we don't wake up as much in between sleep cycle 1 and sleep cycle 2. We then go back down into deep, and it's kind of around this area that we come back into consciousness. So if you are troubled by waking up in the night, it tends to be that it will be in between sleep cycle 2 and 3. So usually about 3 hours after you've fallen asleep initially. And then we do more, we don't do as much deep sleep in the early hours of the morning. We spend more time in REM. So that's why we tend to find that people who are stressed, have a lot going on in their brains, busy brain, you're more likely to find that your sleep is interrupted in the early hours of the morning rather than late at night. So women I find tend to sleep okay, they get to sleep okay, fall asleep okay, but it's the early hours of the morning, that the witching hours, where they're either awake, can't get back to sleep again, or they're waking up really early.
I always wake up between 3 and 5 every night. Something just wakes me up. I just kind of like that when I'm awake.
It's the end of one sleep cycle and start the next.
Yeah.
We also we go through different bits where we release cortisol. So this shows you your cortisol production, and it peaks. It gives you a bit of a peak in the morning. So there is like a cortisol release around, well, it depends what time you've gone to bed. It depends on your circadian rhythm, but it sounds as though that's what's happening. It's okay.
It doesn't feel okay, at the time, does it? It feels like I really want to be asleep. That's how it feels,
So I think what's important to remember is how you react to it. So if you understand what it is, and you don't panic, and you just allow yourself to do the things that helped you get to sleep initially, then you should find that you fall back sleeping.
Yeah. See, some nights I can, and some nights your brain starts thinking of things, thinking, oh, I'm awake now, I'm just gonna, and once you start thinking, well, it's harder.
I'm going to give you a couple of techniques
Oh, brilliant.
for that.
Great, okay.
I don't know if other people relate to this or not, but sometimes, and they tend to be the worst nights for me, it's like at the beginning, I've done all the 3 things right, and won't have had like caffeine or alcohol or anything like that, but I get into bed and it's as though my cortisol or adrenaline has triggered at the wrong time, and I just feel like as though I'd had really strong coffee and my heartbeat, I can't begin to breathe. So is that right? Like sometimes can your hormones trigger at the wrong time, or
Not usually, not the cortisol. It wouldn't be the cortisol at that point,
okay?
unless there is something that you are thinking about that is triggering it. And for some people, because they feel as though their bed is the place that they worry about things and they sleep really badly and they toss and turn and they kind of get themselves into a heightened state of anxiety about sleep. That can be enough of a trigger. So for some people, they start to fall asleep in front of the TV downstairs, they go upstairs, they get into bed, and at that point they're awake. And that's because they've developed a negative association with their bed. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, that's me too.
It does.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll come back to that as well. We'll talk about that. This is just a simple graph to show you how sleep pressure works. So that drive to sleep, the hunger for sleep. So sleep pressure rises during the day, then you sleep, hopefully it drops off, and then it starts to build again the next day. That's just a simple graph. The one thing that I will say about sleep pressure is that if we equate it to hunger, if you snack between meals, you have a nice big snack, you're not going to be hungry for dinner. Sleep is exactly the same. The more you sleep during the day, the less you sleep at night. If you nap during the day, you're not going to build up enough sleep pressure for a good night's sleep at night. So be careful with napping. It just ruins your sleep pressure. Yeah. Okay. So, practical tips. The way that we can make sure that we've got a really strong circadian rhythm is to make sure that we do everything in a rhythm at the same time every day. And our circadian rhythm is really based on how much light we get in our eyes. It's based on the other cues of eating, exercising and everything else. But the most fundamental one is how much light is in our eyes at what time. So if you want to build up a really strong circadian rhythm, the best thing to do is as soon as you wake up in the morning, go and get some natural light in your eyes as early as possible, as soon as possible. That just gives like an anchor to your brain that this is morning, in 16 hours time I'm going to release melatonin and you're going to fall asleep. If there's no natural light, this time of year, absolutely fine. In the middle of winter, if you're waking up at 6, there's no natural light, put on really strong lights. It's not the same, but it does help. On the other end of the spectrum, if we then need less light in our eyes at bedtime in order to kind of secure that this is bedtime, then the idea is just to shut down as many lights as possible. If it's still light outside and you want to go to sleep, black out I'm not. But even just before bed, making sure that you're turning lights off, keeping lights low. It's the difference between being in a supermarket with like big brash neon lights and being in a nice spa that's like got little twinkly candles. It really does make a difference. Don't worry too much about the blue light electric lights in. That the amount of lumens coming out of a electronic screen doesn't make a huge amount of difference to your circadian rhythm. It will make a difference to how deeply you sleep. So if you're trying to sleep in a room that's got lights on, it will make a difference to whether you can get into deep sleep and how long you stay in deep sleep. But it doesn't make much of a difference to when your melatonin and cortisol is released. The blue light thing is, don't worry about it too much. If you want to watch TV because you find it nice and relaxing at night, go ahead. There's no reason that you shouldn't. What does make a difference is looking at your phone when everything else is dark. So in the middle of the night, try not to look at the phone. It's not a huge difference with the light itself. The most difference is what you're looking at on the phone. I'll come back to that in a minute. Bedtime routine. So if your circadian rhythm if your clock, your internal body clock, knows that you do the same thing at the same time every night, then it will start to shut things down even before you've got into bed. So just by cleaning your teeth, washing your face, putting on your pyjamas, it knows, okay, right, so if you do this now, I know the next thing I'm going to do is get into bed and fall asleep. And it will start to shut things down even before you're in bed. The idea is that you've then got a really strong association of the timing between what I do now and bed. So building in some nice wind down time for about an hour before you go to bed. Start to focus on things that you find relaxing, things that tell your brain and your body that you're safe. So make sure that you've eaten enough, that you've had enough to drink, that you are not having difficult conversations with people on the phone, that you are not watching something that is too stimulating, too exciting, too worrying. It should all be about relaxation, what makes you feel relaxed. Having a really strong bed-sleep association is great. So this is where I think you two probably struggle. So the idea is that your brain knows that if I'm in bed, I'm asleep. So the less you do other things in bed, apart from sleeping, the better. There is one thing that I'm not going to take away from you. If you want to do that in bed, that's entirely up to you. Just make sure that you're not doing anything that raises your heart rate and your blood pressure, or your disappointment factor just before you're going to go to sleep. Yeah? You know what I mean. So build a really strong relationship with your bed as being the place that you sleep. Therefore, if you find yourself in bed and not asleep, and you're starting to worry about the fact that you're not asleep, either get up, go somewhere else and do something different, or put the light on and do whatever it is that you find relaxing for sleep. It used to be that people would say you've got to get out of bed, you've got to go somewhere different because of this bed-sleep association. Because you don't want to get into bed and the first thing you think about is worry or I'm not going to sleep. But for some people they just found that was too disturbing, that they were waking themselves up even more by getting out of bed. The idea is that you don't lay in bed and try to sleep. Sleep is about relaxing, it's about letting go, it's about a lack of effort. If all of your effort is going into sleeping, I really want to get to sleep, I should be asleep, and if you build up that frustration, that's what keeps you awake. So it's about accepting, okay, I'm not asleep, but I'm here relaxing, or getting out of bed, starting your bedtime routine again. And that goes for not only when you get into bed initially, but when you wake up in the middle of the night. The worst thing you can do is lie there and cry. Just do something else. Ideally, bedrooms should be 16 to 18 degrees, if they can. Difficult this time of year, I appreciate that. Difficult when your body's telling you at different temperatures. There are lots of different types of bedding that you can get to help. Anybody suffer with like night sweats? So bamboo sheets, bedding, bedclothes, wicks away the sweat, keeps it away, keeps you cool, keeps you warm. That's the ideal. Keeping a spare change of clothes next to the bed or in the bathroom, just so that you can easily get changed, get back into bed. Fans, inserts, so they're, anybody seen the pet mat things? No reason why you can't put it underneath your bedsheet. Simple as that. But you can get them for your pillow. So you can put them in your pillow, keeps your pillow nice and cool. Cold water bottles. Fill in a water bottle, don't fill it completely, fill a water bottle 3/4 of it full, freeze it.
I've heard that about hot water bottles as well. You can put water in and freeze it and
Take that to bed with you. It's tricky because I know it goes hot, cold. Layers of bedding, so you've got old school, maybe a sheet and a duvet, so that you can keep the duvet, keep the sheet on. Different duvet maybe from whoever you share a bed with, because they can do their own thing. You have a different duvet. There are ways and methods. I know it's difficult. We want to eliminate noise and stress and light as much as possible. So the light thing is about getting you into deep sleep. When we have light, it will just keep you in sleep, sleep stage 2, REM, sleep stage 2, REM, won't really go into deep sleep. So we do need as much darkness as possible for deep sleep. And the noise thing, basically, unless you're in deep sleep, you're going to get disturbed by noise, because we just see it as a threat. Unless you can convince yourself that it's not a threat, which people do over time. So if you imagine somebody moves into a new house and they've got a train line at the bottom of the garden, and that train goes past at 5:30 every morning, for the first 2-3 weeks it's going to wake you up at 5:30 in the morning, until your brain says, do you know what, that's not a threat. Not even bothered anymore. And the train just goes past, doesn't wake you up, you carry on sleeping. So if you can do that with your husband snoring, that's the ideal. Some people do say that eventually they get to a point where if their partner goes away and they're not listening, like the snoring isn't in the bed, that they can't sleep, because that has been a trigger to sleep. So it is possible. Hypnotherapy. Right. Make sure your mattress, your pillows, your bedding, bedclothes are the most comfortable for you. Really difficult to advise on what mattress, pillow and things like that, because it is really your choice. But just make sure that getting into bed should be like it should feel like this is a great experience. It should be like, I can't wait to get into bed. That's the idea. Pets in the bedroom. So bit of a double one here. So for some people, they will say, I don't feel safe unless I've got my dog sleeping on the bed next to me and I can feel their breathing. You know, that makes me feel safe. Therefore, you're going to sleep better. Absolutely fine. If, however, your pets have a tendency to, I don't know, push you out of bed or huff and puff, they don't have the same sleep cycles, so they get up, they come sniff your ear just to check that you're still breathing, which is lovely, but if it's going to wake you up, it's not great. And the other thing is allergies. So some people have, like, I don't know, the cat sleeps on their pillow during the day, they get into bed, they're breathing in the cat hair, they don't realise that that's stopping them getting as much oxygen in as possible. The brain goes through that thing, am I safe enough to sleep? No, you're not getting enough oxygen. they just don't sleep very well. So, yeah, you'll have to work that out for yourselves. For some people it's one way, for some people it's the other. Food and drink. Caffeine. So caffeine stops us feeling sleep pressure. It doesn't give us more energy, it just means that we don't feel the pressure to sleep. That pressure to sleep is still there. And unfortunately, when we fall asleep with caffeine left in our bloodstream, we don't get into deep sleep. It keeps us in sleep stage 2. When we do that, and we have a whole night like that, we don't release all of our sleep pressure. So we wake up and our sleep pressure is still, let's say, 25% there. Because we've not released all of our sleep pressure, we don't wake up and feel great. We wake up and feel a bit groggy. Not slept very well. What's the first thing that we do when we don't sleep very well?
Coffee.
And we perpetuate the problem. It takes us about 8 hours to process the amount of caffeine in 1 cup of coffee. So that means that to go to sleep with no caffeine in your system, you need to stop drinking anything with caffeine in 8 hours before you're going to fall asleep. Decaf does not mean no caffeine. Decaf still contains caffeine, up to 25% of the amount in normal caffeinated drink. Be careful with decaf, it doesn't mean no caffeine. Alcohol. Alcohol works in a slightly different way. So alcohol is a depressant, it depresses our nervous system, and it depresses it down like, you can imagine like a coiled spring. Imagine your nervous system is a spring, and alcohol depresses it, holds onto it like so. So it can be quite good to fall asleep when we're drunk, because our nervous system is like, oh, it's okay, it's not great. We feel quite safe and lovely. And then during the night, we process that alcohol. Our liver does a great job of getting rid of it, and we process the alcohol, and all of a sudden we've not got the alcohol in our system, our nervous system, the brake's taken off, and it goes, and then we're wide awake, and we stay awake in sleep stage 2 all night for the rest of the night. So unless you're going to drink enough alcohol that it takes you 8 hours to process it, you're going to end up not sleeping for the heart of it. Most of the effects of a hangover are from the fact you've not had a good night's sleep, not from the alcohol. So alcohol's a tricky one. Nicotine is a stimulant, keeps you awake, puts your nervous system on like a woo. Sugar, same. When we have sugar in our system, our bodies find it really difficult to relax, our muscles can't relax, it's a stimulant. Same with spices. Very difficult to sleep when your nervous system is like that. The amount of fibre we have in our diet makes a huge difference to how well we sleep. People on a high sugar, low fibre diet, their sleep is impaired. Really important to have fibre in your diet. But if you are somebody who finds fibre quite difficult to digest, have it earlier in the day. If you know that you're slightly intolerant to anything, don't have it before bed, because your body's just going to go through that system. Am I safe? No, do you know what? I'm having real difficulty digesting that bagel that you made me half an hour ago. Alright, I'll keep you awake until you've finished. Makes sense. Magnesium. Everybody talks about magnesium as being the miracle cure for sleep. It can help if you feel like you are particularly nervy, if you jump at like loud sounds and your nervous system is quite activated, taking a magnesium supplement can help. It will help relax your nervous system slightly.
There are different types of magnesium as well.
There are different types of magnesium.
Yeah.
And which one works for you is It's
One
difficult.
affects your guts and gives you diarrhoea, and the other one helps you sleep. So if you're on the wrong one, you're stuck.
I don't really recommend magnesium. I don't think it helps all that much. It's a bit the same as, you know, like people say you should eat kiwi fruits, you should eat tart cherry juice, you should have dairy because of the tryptophan in there. You would need to eat an awful lot of everything. Even lettuce contains something that helps you sleep, which is why tortoises eat so much of it when they go to hibernation.
But you can con your mind into thinking that, I mean, you know, your magnesium and glycinate, you can con your brain into, if I take that, then I will sleep, and if all day I did take that, I'm not going to sleep. You know what I mean? You
So
can
that's exactly
psychologically use it.
Yes. So people will often say, have a hot milky drink before you go to bed. Now, and they will say that because milk contains dairy contains tryptophan helps with your melatonin production. Absolutely nonsense. You'd have to eat the entire cow to get that kind of effect. What it is years ago when you were a kid, your gran made you tucked you into bed, told you how much you loved you were, read you a story, made you feel so safe and warm and lovely and cosy, and you slept. Now you've built that association in your head between hot milk and sleeping well. And if that works for you, amazing. Do it every night. But don't panic if you can't do it one night and then you're like, oh no, I'm not going to sleep. It's the thought process of I'm not going to sleep that keeps you awake, not the fact that you've not had a hot milk drink. Does that help?
Yeah, I have sweet tea, and I'm sure it's the smell of the spiced apple that it's just so relaxing, and that's it.
Brilliant. Stick with it. If it works, do it. Practical tips for busy brains. So this is the one for people who wake up at 3 in the morning and their brain is like, whoa. So how can we make our brains feel more safe, more relaxed with what's going on? And it's all about either solving the issue or distracting yourself from it. Sounds really easy, right? Easy said than done. But one idea. Scheduling some worry time in the day. When we think about things at night and we're on our own and we haven't got the support of anybody else and there's nothing that we can do at 3 o'clock in the morning and it's dark and everything feels worse, we just, because we're such social animals, when we try and face things on our own and it feels like everyone else in the world is asleep, it's only you that's awake, everything's compounded. So the smallest molehill is Everest at that time. Everything feels like there's no way I can get through this, it's awful, it's the end of the world. If we looked at that issue during the day, at a different time, when our cortisol levels are less, and it's nice and sunny, and we've got support, and I can ring somebody, it's easier to deal with. The idea is that you spend 10, 20, 30 minutes a day where you allow yourself to worry. So go through all of those things that your brain goes to at night, sit down with them, think about them. Are there things that you can do anything about? Is this within your control? If it is, now's the time to do it. Call somebody, ask for their advice, get some support. Problem shared is a problem halved. How can I resolve this? What's my plan? You don't need to resolve it all in that 10, 20, 30 minutes. You just need to have a plan so that your brain knows that this isn't something I need to work out at night. I'm in the process of doing that during the day. It's all about changing how you feel at night. So when you lie down in bed or you wake up in the night and your brain starts going to those things, remind yourself, it's okay. I don't need to do this right now. I've done it already this morning, this afternoon. I'm going to do it again tomorrow. This isn't the time. The time is during the day when I can do something about it. Not now. Should help. If there is something that continues to come up, you need to look at that issue more and more during the day. It's just, getting to the point that you can tell your brain, now is not the time. Or we can distract by practicing gratitude, saying thank you to yourself for having that worry time during the day. Being appreciative of the fact that you've got a roof over your head, you're in a nice comfy bed, that you are still alive, working, moving, even at this point in life where my hormones are rubbish. I'm still doing it. I'm still functioning. I can do this. It's good. I'm safe. It's okay. If you need to, write some notes down. So if when you're falling asleep, you suddenly remember that tomorrow is the day that you've got to take the bins out, or tomorrow is, I don't know, Johnny's swimming lesson and you've got to put his, write it down. Your brain will try and keep you awake until, for you to remember it. Just write it down. Out your brain, it's gone. If it's something huge and you know that you're going to be there a while writing this down and it's a real worry thing for you, I would suggest you get out of bed and go and do that somewhere else, because you don't really want to do that in bed. You should really have done that earlier in the day. Sometimes it blindsides us. Sometimes we don't realise that that's what we were worrying about, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning you realise that is what we're worrying about. Write it down, get it out of your head. Make that time that you're awake productive. Let it go. Go back to your wind down time, fall asleep again. The other way is to distract yourself from it. So anything that you can do that you find relaxing, that takes your brain away. That's why people read before they fall asleep. Reading fiction, not some factual book about something. And fiction, when I say fiction, I mean something that's nice. I know everybody loves a good murder. I love a good murder too.
Wonderful thing.
But if it's a murder that you're then like thinking about, you know, if it's relevant, if you've got kids and it's about kids, like I know there, you know. Also, I'd say with reading, find a book that is good. You can replace whatever storyline is happening in your brain with what's going on in your own life. That's great. But if it's really good and you're still like, oh, I'm gonna have to read it. Same for Netflix, right? The last thing you watch, don't make it the thing that is gonna make you watch 3 more episodes before you get to bed. Something that's, it's good but it's not that good. That's tricky. If you find that really tricky, my advice is to read a book you've already read. Something that you've read and you enjoyed, that makes you feel good about yourself. Read it again. You're not going to be reading it 3 o'clock in the morning because you know what's going to happen, so it's much easier. Anything like that, meditation, mindfulness, guided relaxation, that's the only real reason that you have your phone next to your bed, so that you can listen to something as you're falling asleep. Cognitive shuffling is where you come up with a letter of the alphabet and you go through like thinking of things and picturing things that start with the letter of the alphabet. Helps a lot of people. Progressive muscle relaxation, going through, I'm going to relax the muscles of my feet, I'm going to relax the muscles of my legs, on my knees, and just allowing that relaxation to spread throughout the body. Quite a good technique. Anything that you find nice and relaxing, breathing, just concentrating on the breath and distracting yourself. But if you've done the scheduling and the worry time and you've practiced enough gratitude, you should find that you don't need to distract yourself as much. All of this is exactly what you would teach a young child to do. So if you think about how you put kids to bed, we are exactly the same. Just treat yourself like you're a toddler. You're going to stop running around an hour before bed. You're going to do something nice and relaxing instead. You're going to put yourself to bed. You're going to read yourself a story. You're going to remind yourself how much you're loved and how happy and grateful you are, and you're going to sleep much better. Throw in that hot milky drink. Jobs are good. Any questions?